Hello folks. In this video, we're going to take a look at our breakout game once again and try to add some player collisions with the ball. So as of right now, our game can go left and right, and if we press spacebar, the ball will go up and collide with the bricks. Now it doesn't actually go and move up, so we're going to have to solve that issue. But the ball does collide with the world, which is good. But as one of the people watching this video pointed out, thank you, Ryan, is that if you hit the space bar, you can still launch the ball up. This is weird, and well, I mean, we know how to fix this, but it kind of creates a different game altogether. And actually, kind of a neat modification, I guess, if you took it, if you maybe had it so that the game was that every time you hit the space bar, maybe it increased velocity or something. I don't know, but this is not the game we're trying to build. We're trying to build a traditional breakout game. So this won't do. So we're going to have to solve for that. All right, let's get back to our code and take a look. So in looking down, the problem, we'll start by solving that problem, the weird interaction we're getting. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. That weird interaction we're getting with the spacebar being able to move it. And thankfully, we labeled our sections. So add player movement. Okay, if cursor's left down, if cursor's right. Okay, let's take a look. No, we want it down here in, it's under ball, add ball control. If game started equals false, set player X. So there's two ways to change this. If cursor spaced down, here's our cursors. Here's the bit of text that's handling that that part. And we could make this a compound statement that says, and if cursor spaced down in game started equals false. But if you look, actually, we already dealt with that above here, right? When we set the ball X to be the player X. So in that case, we don't actually need to include this statement as a part of like a compound statement. We can just tap into this fact up here and make what's called a nested if statement, where we have an if statement inside of another one. And how do we do that? Well, it's actually really easy. All we need to do is take this bracket here and delete that. And we can move that up one. And then we go down to the bottom here after this one here and do that. So if we click the little format, auto format, your editor might be a little bit different, but on this one has an auto format. We can see that now we have 3 stacked brackets, okay, each corresponding to one above. So this first one here goes to the update. Create function. No, it does go to the update. Okay, yeah. So update. So this bracket goes to the function update. This one goes to the if statement for the game started false. And this one goes to the cursor space down. And how this works is basically if the game started equals false. Okay, so when we first start the game, it is false. Set the player X set the ball X to be the player X. Then if the player cursor space down, set the velocity to be negative 200. So this is only going to run if, in fact, if the game started as false. We set the game started to be true as soon as they press the space down. So therefore, this whole loop will be disabled as soon as they press the space for the first time. And that will solve that issue. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the focus of today, which is going to be on building out our additional collisions for the player and the paddle. Oh, and one other thing, sorry, before we move on to the ball and the paddle, let's solve the issue of those bricks not behaving the way we expected them to. Meaning that the ball was moving left and right, but it wasn't moving up and down once it collided with the bricks. And that actually has to do with our brick groups, our sprite groups that we set up. And what we can do for that is actually go down to each brick group and add in one more property. So I'm going to go down to the end of this group here, hit a comma, and the property you want to change is immovable. Movable. There you go. Movable. And we're going to set this to be immovable. Excuse me. You want, no, it is VE. Sorry. immovable. Okay. Immovable set to true. And we'll take this and we'll add it down here too. Immovable. True. Oh, wait, whoops. Make sure you put the commas at the end of each line there. Immovable, true, and for the red ones, same thing. Immovable, true. Okay. So let's go back and let's run it. And I'm going to add this thing again here. Okay, so now well, the spacebar issue is fixed, but it's still not moving up. Let's see, what did I do wrong? Let's go back to our code. Immovable. No, it has no E in it. What am I thinking? All right, yeah, so get rid of the E in that. Sorry, typo. Immovable. I don't know if any of you caught that, but if you did, yours will be working. Yeah, so immovable has no E in it. I don't know why I wrote that. Typo. Immovable. All right, let's go back. Let's try it again. There it goes. Okay, so yeah, we see there that it actually bounces back. Good, we can test the paddle collisions now. And it went right through, which is what we wanted. We wanted to be able to go below. We don't want it to bounce off the bottom, right? That would we want to be able to end the game if the ball goes below or outside the play area down the bottom here. So let's go back and let's take care of that next part, which is going to be on the paddle collision. Okay, so I'm going to go down to the bottom of the create where we were. Let's see. Yeah, bottom of create. Where are we here? I'm usually not this zoomed in. Just create. It's preload. That's good. Create. Okay. So we will go down to where we set up the player collisions, world collisions. Okay, yeah. Let's all go all the way down here. Add break collisions. Yeah, we want. Okay. We're going to go below. So I'm on line 110 on my script. I'm going to go below where it says add break collisions. I'm going to do a comment. I'm going to say, let's do paddle collision. Okay. So the paddle collision or the player collision is, I'm going to make a comment here, player. Okay. The collision there is going to be very similar to the bricks. And the first thing that we do is we can set the player to be movable. Okay. And what we can do for that is there is no, actually we have a player up here. Player equals this physics add. We didn't create paddle. This physics add, yeah. So we can add to the group. What we're going to do is we're just going to add it with property down here. Player dot set and move. A bold it, misspelled this time. Set immovable is going to do the same thing as above, except above we added it as a property. Here we're using a function to change the player to make it immovable. If we could set this to be true. Something like this is handy. It's just one method you could do to modify the game in real time. So if you wanted the object, your physics object, to be movable at some point, like if you're trying to if you want to have something where it unlocks a portion of your game to be, a wall to be pushed forward or something like that, you could turn physics on for it and set it to be movable, and you can modify that property using this method real time inside the game. So I just want to show you that as well too. Okay, and then add collider between player, paddle, and ball. So we already did this up here. We did this physics add collider. So let's do the same thing down here. This physics add dot collider. Okay, make sure you add your periods there and your capitalization matters, right? And then we'd say the things we want to have collide. So the first one's going to be the ball. Second one's going to be the player, which is the paddle. And then other properties. Well, the third thing is our function. We haven't written a function yet to deal with this collision. We'll just call it hit player. And then we pass in null and this for this object. Okay. So now we add a collider between the ball, the player, and it's going to run the hit player function once they collide. Okay. And what should we want this hit player function to do? Well, one thing we talked about is before maybe increasing the speed with a space bar. What we can do is actually make this game more difficult, right? One of the things you want to do in your games is to increase the challenge as the player's skill increases. So that's called flow. And we want to be able to have the player not get bored of the game by mastering the skill too quickly. So what we could do is every time they hit the players, every time the ball hits the paddle, we can increase that speed to make the game more challenging for them. And the other thing is the ball's direction needs to respond to which side of the paddle the player hit on. Meaning that, it's a strategy. If you hit the ball on the left side of the paddle, it should launch it in a certain direction. If you hit on the right, it should launch in that direction. So it gives the illusion that there's, the ball is actually hitting this paddle and then we're launching it. So this function needs to handle both of those things, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the bottom here where we created our other function. Remember we added the destroy brick function. And get rid of those spaces there to clean it up. And let's do a comment here that says player collision function. And let's do function hit player, because that's what we did above. We pass in the two objects in the order that they're going to hit, so ball and player. Okay. And before what we did is we hid the body and disable the body. That would be not what we want to do here. I mean, we want to be able to have the player continue playing, right? But what we do want to do is increase ball velocity after ball collides with player. Okay, and to do that, we go into the ball object, we access one of its methods. We could do set velocity y. There we go. And okay, so what is the velocity going to be? The velocity is going to be, remember y is going up, and the if you have a minus number, right? If you have a negative number, the ball is going to go up faster. So we want to do ball.body and velocity.y. So we take the ball's current velocity, right? So we're going to set the new velocity, but we're going to take the current one, and we're going to minus 5 from it. Why don't we add 5? Well, we're just changing the y velocity. So we're just changing the speed at which it goes back up, and we minus 5 every single time. So if the ball starts off at, say, 100, next time it hits the paddle, it'll be 105, then 110, 115, gradually getting faster as it goes. This is a linear growth, meaning that it's going to constantly grow up at a constant rate. If you wanted to make this more challenging, you could use a different math equation here to increase this, ball, maybe like something like times 2. And that would give us a different growth rate, right? And in the case that we did it as, say, y times 2, this would get you an exponential growth rate where it starts off kind of gradual and slow and then gets really hard really fast. So you can always play with these numbers and see what works for you, see what you like. And I mean, that's part of designing the game is tinkering with it to figure out what values are just right to make it work. But in this case, minus 5 is fine for a beginner easy game. Okay, so the next step is we're going to have to deflect ball in direction depending on paddle. Okay, for this one, we're going to do new x velocity. Okay, so we're going to set up a new variable. We're going to have it equal to math. And here we're going to access the ABS function, the absolute function. And what that's going to do is it's going to turn or get the absolute value for any value. So basically the idea here is that we're going to get a velocity, okay? We're going to get the absolute value of it, and we're going to add 5 to it, okay? And then we're going to do a check to see if what that value is, and then we're going to handle bouncing it left and right, depending on where the x value is for the ball versus the paddle. So let's do ball absolute value of ball dot body. Let's get its velocity dot x. We'll add 5 to that. Okay. All right. And now what we'll do is the idea is that we just send it off at a constant 5 rate. So new velocity is absolute value of wherever it is. Okay. So if the ball is moving negative, okay, we're just going to get the absolute value and add 5 to that. So we're going to increase the speed. The idea here is that if the ball is going negative, it's moving to the left. Okay. That value is going to be a negative value, and adding 5 to it will actually not increase the speed going to the left. It will decrease it. So we're going to handle the left and right motion in a second here, but what we're trying to do is just get an absolute speed increase value to move it forward. And here, move ball to left or right. Okay. And I'll make a note up here. Deflect ball in direction depending on paddle. Increase. Actually, I'll put it on the next line here. Increase speed. Okay, and here's where we'll handle the moving left and right. If, okay, the ball is x. If the ball x is less than the player x, meaning that if the ball is moving, or basically their x is closer to the left-hand side than the paddle. Okay, remember, and these sprites take the center point as 0, 0 on these sprites, meaning that even if the ball is like, it doesn't have to be the entire ball, it just has to be the center of the ball, that x value is less than the player x. Okay, we can ball dot set velocity, and we'll set the x velocity to be the negative new x velocity. Okay, what does that mean? That means that we get the new velocity, okay? We're going to zero it out to make sure that there's no negative sign in front of it, and we just get an absolute value of that. So if it's on the left or the right, doesn't matter. We take that velocity and we add 5 to it. Okay, and now down here, now we're going to go through and actually determine, is that velocity going to push it to the left or the right? And if the ball is to the left of the player, okay, we're basically going to bounce it back towards the left-hand side. We're going to give it a negative velocity. And the idea is that you could hit it with the side of the paddle and launch it back to where it came from. Okay. And else, okay, ball dot set velocity x to be new velocity x. So basically we took this whole thing here and just made it negative or positive over here, okay? And yeah, we could have put this in here and maybe did new velocity x is whatever it is minus x, but this, I suppose, this works a little bit cleaner because you want to be able to define your variables to know exactly what you're doing, and you don't have to tinker with those numbers in here. This just makes it a little bit cleaner to define the variable above, and then we work from there. Okay. What else can we do? So for that actually looks pretty good. Let's take a look. Okay, so we can move left and right. Ball goes up on spacebar. Spacebar doesn't work. And if we hit it, ooh, all right, cool. So now we're actually building the game. All right, so we hit on the left-hand side of the paddle there. This is coming along great. We have to put a couple finishing touches on here, and this will be looking pretty good. All right, we hit on the... All right, so the center of that must have been on just past the side there. Yeah, we can bounce it off that way. Okay, can we bounce it this way? Yes, we can. All right, so the center of it hits to the right of that. Can we try that one? Still hitting to the center of it. So this is pretty good. The speed increase, it is increasing in speed. It's, like I said, it's going to be linear. It's going to be a gradual growth. And then if we wanted to speed this up, we could add in a multiplication instead, or increase from the negative, or increase the +5 or should be -5 because it's on the Y. We could increase the -5 to something faster. We could do -10 or -20 and get that increase speed happening faster. So that'll be up to you to tinker with those numbers, but we almost got this game here. We can do all sorts of cool things too. We could add a. I wasn't planning on doing this for this project, but we could add a counter for this. All right, so I wanted to get that so that you saw that. So I was on the right hand side, but I hit it on the left and actually deflected it the other way. So that was pretty neat. The last brick's giving me some trouble here. We can actually add in a counter to see how many times it hits, or we can add in things where you can very easily do like a remix of this game to add on more capability to maybe add a second ball on a different level. Maybe there's 2 balls that start with and they go in opposite directions, or power-ups or stuff like that. There's all sorts of cool things you can do to make this game a little more interesting, but I can't get this last paddle. This is insane. I mean, this last brick here. This needs to go. Maybe just I need some more practice. I haven't played in a while. Come on. Oh man. All right. Well, maybe in your game you can get it, but that's it for this video. We're gonna wrap up with that, and then next time we'll take up the functions that deal with the end of game. We'll include some start instructions. We'll include some end instructions. Oh man, it's getting faster. We don't increase the paddle speed either, so it gets harder. Eventually, the ball is gonna get so fast that you're not gonna be able to make it to the. Oh no! Oh, all right. Sorry. All right. So in that case, yeah, we have our game, and we have to add a little finish screen in case the player finishes just like I did, and the game needs to end, right? So we have to add that next time. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.